Thank you very much. Please, let's take our seats. Thank you. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to join you for this official launch of Shirika Plan. This historic event marks a transformative step in Kenya's long history and along the path of humanitarian leadership. And as we advance our capacity to deliver effective, responsive, and durable solutions to give relief and protect the dignity of refugees and asylum seekers. Kenya is a generous and hospitable society. As a tradition, we warmly welcome all visitors, understanding that they arrive in our land by different routes for different reasons. Solidarity with people fleeing their threats to life and freedom is a long-standing tradition that aligns with our society's obligation to receive all people with consideration and empathy. It is not a coincidence, therefore, that our nation hosts more than 800,000 forcibly displaced persons, mostly from East and the Horn of Africa and the Great Lakes region. Even as we observe with concern that global displacement of persons is approaching unprecedented levels, we also clearly appreciate that traditional humanitarian-only approaches are no longer sufficient. Crises have become more acute, protracted, complex, and dynamic. Resources, on the other hand, have declined, and the possibility of resettlement remains elusive. Under these challenging conditions, we must adopt a development-oriented model anchored in sustainability, inclusion, and resilience in order to continue to uphold the safety and dignity of displaced persons and to make them in some way to feel at home. Accordingly, the Shirika Plan is our bold, homegrown solution which amplifies the African Union's call for African solutions not only to Africa's problems, but also global challenges as well. As was said here ably by the Minister and by the Deputy President, we can confidently say this is a Kenyan invention. We have been a host country for 30 plus years, and in the 30 years, we've come to understand this challenge in a better way. We've come to appreciate refugees better, and we have come to understand that the problem is not the refugee, the problem could be elsewhere. And therefore, this became acutely clear to me in 2016, I think, when I went to Kakuma for a development tour, then as Deputy President. And in the process of the meeting, and I was with the Member of Parliament, I think that time, Daniel Nanok. In the process of the meeting, there was a presentation by one of the students from the local school. And in the presentation, this pupil was asking me as Deputy President whether I could facilitate them to be a refugee. And the reason is that the school in the refugee camp was better than the school that this pupil was attending. And it came to me as a sharp realization that there was a problem. And it is then that we began as government of Kenya to rethink the relationship between refugees and the host communities. Because of the difference in terms of access to health, access to education, access to social services, the stark difference between the host communities and the refugees, there was an emerging tension between the host communities and the refugees. And therefore, it became necessary for us to rethink the way the host communities were relating to the refugees and the need to harmonize that relationship by harmonizing the conditions that the refugees lived in with the conditions that the host communities were experiencing. And this plan is a response by the government of Kenya on how we can translate refugees and the host community's relationship into a win-win relationship, a one that benefits the host community and recognizes the host community's solidarity with the refugees, the host community's sharing of their space with the refugees, but also working in a manner that the social and other facilities that were available to the refugees also should be made available to the host communities. The plan's strategy to transform refugee camps into integrated settlements gives inclusion a new expression by promoting the creation of opportunity in a manner that intentionally benefits refugees and host communities in the same way. In so doing, it recognizes the indispensable role of host communities, a number of which have provided exemplary compassion, patiently and generously extended hospitality for over 35 years. And this plan, therefore, places the host communities at the heart of this refugee plan. Because minus the host communities, it becomes realistically impossible for us as a government to discharge our international obligation to refugees. This plan also sets out the government's strategy to guide reform to policy and regulatory frameworks, including the Refugee Act of 2021, the adoption of the Comprehensive Refugee Response Framework, the inclusion of refugees in county development plans, and their integration into public education, healthcare, and financial systems. It became obvious to us that containing refugees in camps, people who could, many of them could possibly have ideas, they are knowledgeable, people who could deploy their energy, expertise, and resource into the development of the country was not the best way to relate with the refugees. And therefore, it became necessary for us to rethink the place of refugees in our society and contextualize it with host communities. As I speak to you, more than 70,000 refugees are enrolled for universal health coverage under the Social Health Insurance Fund, while IDs for refugees are recognized by the Integrated Population Registration System. Partnerships such as International Finance Corporation, Kenya Commercial Bank, and Swedish International Development Agency guarantees funds are catalyzed their financial inclusion and engagement in entrepreneurship and job creation. And I must thank these agencies for making it possible for refugees to be part of our financial system, and to thank the private sector, including our banks, for participating. Equally important, there is undeniable progress with respect to key enablers of inclusion, which include the recognition of the refugees' IDs in SIM card registration and banking, the development of refugees database, which is interoperable with government systems, and strengthening local governance through the elevation of Dadaab and Kakuma Kalolbeye camps as communities into special municipalities. And these we have worked with governors from that region, and I must commend them and the leadership in those areas for making it possible for us to work as government in a manner that carries on board the thoughts, the concerns of host communities and the county governments in those areas. The concerns that have been raised are legitimate because these are concerns that have been experienced over many years. This plan attempts to respond to some of the concerns the communities have been experiencing or have raised over the years. It was untenable to continue the relationship the way it was, and therefore this plan attempts to rethink. And we think this plan is not just a Kenyan invention. Once we roll out with the support of all the partners that have been working with us, including the international community, and I'm very happy Filippo is here to put his sign of approval from the UN community, that we could look at this template as being the relationship going into the future with host communities and refugees, not just in Kenya, not just in our region, but also globally. This is not to say that we must make it, the norm for people to export others from their countries as refugees. I think that's not what we are saying. And in fact, as a country, we are deploying all the assets that we have to contain instability in different parts of our region. Just this morning, I have sent the Honorable Raila Odinga, our former Prime Minister, to South Sudan because there is a situation that could lead to export of more refugees from that country unless it is contained. We are engaged currently on the situation in DRC. We have a robust conversation on containing the situation in Sudan. So we are doing what we can as Kenya, working with partners and regional mechanisms to see to it that we contain situations that could lead to people seeking asylum and leaving their countries because of instability and other challenges that countries face. So we are actively making sure that we do what we can to make sure that we have less and less refugees and asylum seekers by participating in interventions that help countries manage their affairs better. I must also say that as champion of the Africa Union reform, of our Africa Union family, we are also looking at how we can better stabilize our region, how we can deploy resources in our continent to stabilize this continent, because unless we stabilize this continent, any meaningful activity, any progress is undermined, and we become a place of displaced people and refugees and asylum seekers. And we are currently looking at our peace and security architecture of the Africa Union so that we can find a link and connection to the international community. And I'm very happy that we've already made the first step, that Africa Union peace initiatives will now be funded as agreed by the UN by United Nations assessed contribution, making Africa Union interventions better resourced for us to take, better control of interventions in our region, rather than waiting long for some of the UN interventions to come into place. So, apart from thinking about the refugees we have and how we can integrate them into the development of our country, we are also actively working on how to make sure that we reduce on people seeking asylum where we can, and people being exported as refugees. As you can see, we are neither short of ideas, commitment, or willingness to do the work needed to actualize this critical vision. For this reason, the Shirika Plan, whose development entailed extensive multi-sectoral and multi-stakeholder consultations, led by county governments, and that is why they've already expressed themselves and some of the issues they raised, and also refugee-led organizations, UN agencies, development partners, and the civil society, is a strategy which reflects the contribution of a broad spectrum of actors. It clearly and boldly reflects our commitment to the Global Compact on Refugees, as well as the constitutional mandate to observe and implement measures that not only fulfill but also expand inclusion, equity, equality, social justice, non-discrimination, and access to equal opportunity in our shared prosperity. When we declare that our national transformation agenda shall leave no one behind, we mean every word of it. To guarantee the best chance of fully actualizing the promise of Shirika, I call on our partners in development and humanitarian response, international financial institutions, and other organizations to enhance their position and contribution to our partnership in order to renew the way we transform solidarity by investing in sustainable, scalable, and inclusive solutions. I wish to appreciate all our partners because the long journey we have walked together has not been easy. Thank you for your consistency and readiness to do the good work. In a special way, I thank the counties of Turkana and Garissa, through their leadership present here, for their enduring solidarity and pragmatic leadership. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and your teams. The Shirika Plan now gives us a framework to collaborate more ambitiously and pursue historic achievements that will guarantee hope and dignity for refugees and give host communities due recognition. Let us walk this road assured that together we will transform Kenya's refugees and host communities from sites of sorrow and despair into thriving and prosperous hubs of opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, I now declare the Shirika Plan officially launched, and I thank you very much for your attention, and God bless you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. A round of applause for His Excellency one more time. With your permission, Your Excellency, I'll request that we hand over the Shirika plan to a few individuals. May I request that we take our seats, please, as we leave His Excellency on the podium. And first to receive a copy of the Shirika plan is His Excellency, the Deputy President. If we can have the PS to hand over to His Excellency to hand over a copy to the Deputy President. The next copy will be handed over to the CS Interior. Another copy to the High Commissioner UNHCR. Another copy to the Chair Donor Group. A copy to the Co-Chair for the Donor Group. And one more copy to the Commissioner Refugee, and that is Mr. Burugu. We'll also have a copy each for the governors present. Governor Turkana and Governor Garissa. Your Excellency, sir, with your permission, after that we'll seek, we can have one for the PS. PS, Bellew is already there. So, and one for His Excellency. Your Excellency, before you leave, just a quick indulgence for a photo opportunity, kindly. So let's have His Excellency